In our headlines tonight, state government reassures industrialists and entrepreneurs of conducive business environment. Residents of the state cautioned against violating sanitation laws. Federal government to impose new sanctions on foreigners who overstay their visa. On the foreign scene, Israel accuses Syria and Iran of encouraging Gaza rocket attacks. Good evening, so glad to have you join us on the news. My name is Maureen Stone Enugu. Governor Willoughby says his administration will continue to promote development through focusing on areas of industrialization, education, power supply, and agriculture. He stated this during the official commissioning of Innocent Vehicle Automated Plant and unveiling of Innocent IVM Granite 2019 edition. Correspondent Emmanuel Chiwata now reports.
Governor Obiano, who was represented by the Deputy Governor, Dr. Nkemo Okeke, was led round the company on an inspection tour with other government functionaries, stakeholders, traditional rulers who graced the epoch-making event. Commissioning the Innocent Vehicle Automated Plant, Governor Obiano commended the chairman and chief executive officer, Innocent Vehicle, Mr. Innocent Chukwuma, and other notable businessmen from Nnewi for their innovative ventures and for bringing back home their wealth, which he noted as a related transformation in the state, both in infrastructure and other areas. The governor, who explained that the state government is intensifying efforts to attract the federal government to boost power supply in Nnewi and environs, stated that the event signals the beginning of a new era in making Nigeria a truly industrialized nation. He therefore called on federal government to partner with Innocent Vehicles for the manufacturing of its specific and customized operational vehicles that will enhance the operations of security agencies in performing their task and also provide more employment for youth in the country.
One place I know that we do vehicle manufacturing. When I say vehicle manufacturing, some people can go to the US and ship parts of vehicles, ship everything in a container and come here and assemble. And they'll call it vehicle manufacturing. Is that vehicle manufacturing? No. They buy the food and assembling plants. Where the local content comes from where? Local. Nigeria. Local. The labor is local. Everything is local. But the need, the requirement, we are not making available. That is power. It's still on the generator here in this plant. The state government is doing all they can to push the federal government to bring power to Nnewi. That's
In a remark, the member representing Nnewi North and South constituency at the National Assembly, Mr. Chris Azubogu, applauded the federal government on the promise to install 5 megawatt power supply within 6 months, as long as Nnewi Town will provide land for that. Responding, Mr. Chukwuma, who assured that he will continue to give out his best and as well strive to become one of the best leading vehicles manufacturing brand in the world. Mr. Chukwuma further said that the company equally collaborated with the Nigerian Army for the design, modification, manufacturing and supply of military vehicles, which he explained has led to gross increase of vehicles produced by the company with the attendant benefits of more employment and revenue to the government. From Nnewi, I am Emmanuel Chiwata reporting for ABS News.
Anambra state government has urged residents, especially commercial tricycle operators, to comply with the monthly sanitation in the state. The public relations officer of the state Ministry of Environment, Mrs. Chizoba Anekwe, gave the warning while monitoring this month's environmental sanitation exercise. Chibuzo Obidike has the details.
Mrs. Anekwe said that defaulters would face sanctions from the state's environmental sanitation enforcement team. According to her, it is worrisome to see tricyclists moving around with passengers during the exercise and appeal to residents to cooperate with the government to promote effective sanitation. Instead of waiting for Environment Task Force team to enforce compliance, she charged the state citizenry to ensure more commitment to promote environmental health in the state. Speaking to the ABS, a resident of Oka who identified himself as Odmodu Agureli regretted that the exercise usually witnessed partial compliance due to nonchalant attitude of some stakeholders in the state and called for attitudinal change.
Always in because in that time in 1985, in time of Buhari and the Diabo, I got na compound baby. unu chanile ya apụta unu dị 100 unu ya apụta kpochie ya dị unu kpochie bu na dị oke understand mana ọdụrọzi today anyị etie that clean up ụfọdụ apụta ụfọdụ esisi o'clock pụọ ndị ya na-akpa akpọsị abịa anyere gị aka gebe a na-ejewa.
Another resident, Mr. Martin Okolo, pointed out that sanitation has always been one of the cornerstones that identify the advancement or degeneration of a society, and explained that the efforts of the state government should be encouraged as it would help in preventing outbreak of diseases in the state.
Because me merebi no chabro de bibi ebi na azu afia ebe anyị na-adọ no mwekoto anyị dọ no kwa ebe ma anyị mere anyị na-ekurukwe disease na-adọrọ mma. So dịkwa mma ị na-edobe ebe ọbụla ọcha maka ọcha wetara ife dị mma.
ABS News crew observed that this month's sanitation exercise recorded partial compliance as commercial vehicles and private cars were seen on roads and trading was ongoing along streets, while shopping malls and major markets were under lock and key. And the Aswama team were also seen disposing waste from the drainage system. In Oka, Chibuzo Bidike, ABS News.
The State Command of the Nigerian Legion has provided relief materials to 2 holding centers in the state. The provision was in commemoration of the 2018 World Humanitarian Day celebration, as well as assisting the state government to cushion the effects of flood menace. Staff reporter Odinaka Mwelisa completes the story.
The presentation took the call of commissioners to Father Joseph's College, Aguleri, and Umule General Hospital holding centers with items worth thousands of naira, including bags of rice, semovita, detergent, cartons of indomie, cartons of bread, cartons of biscuits, toiletries, among others. Handing over the items at Father Joseph's College, Agule, the State Commandant, Nigerian Legion, Corps Commander Prince John Ogbenna, while addressing the affected persons, said the visit was to commiserate with them, as well as contribute their quota in alleviating their predicament. Prince Ogbenna encouraged them not to lose hope over the disaster, as the end has not come, rather be consoled that the situation is temporal. He appreciated the government's effort towards their welfare in the camp, reminding the public of the need to extend good hands of fellowship and brotherly love on the affected persons.
Nigerian Legion Humanitarian Day worldwide. Nigerian Legion Humanitarian Day worldwide. And etu anyị na-eme ebe a ka other states na-eme. Mana anyị agaghị emeche nke anyị wee rapụ ụmụnne anyị ndị mmiri chụpụ n'ụlọ. Anyị sị ka anyị bịa fụfa, ka anyị tie aka n'obi, ka anyị contribute our own little quota to alleviate their plight. Oh, yeah, you will be about today.
Also at Umule General Hospital, similar items were presented. Presenting the items, the leader of the visit and state commander, Prince Ogbenna, said they were touched by Governor Obiano's magnanimity in the state to identify and assist his people in cushioning the effect of flood disaster. He said that part of measures to mark the Humanitarian Day, the Legion has embarked on rendering services to humanity across the 6 zones of Obosi, Onitsha, Oka, Nnewi, Otocha, as well as Agwata.
I will decide on I got for governor of Black on one from my being a tata as it happened. Both Humanitarian Day, Nigerian Legion worldwide. So I think I will opportunity to be able to see.
Receiving the items, the camp commander and head, the Anambra West Distribution Center, Mr. Alexander Okafo, while appreciating them for the gesture, assured of the delicious use of the items among the 178 affected persons at the holding center.
Everything that we're here, we have it in common. We share it according to the medical standards.
Speaking to ABS, the State Council Chairman, Major Joseph Nwankwo, said the gesture was to render support, bearing in mind the pains of seeking shelter.
Most of the opinions include helping to alleviate because we have gone out and we know what it means for somebody to live above where you live and remain as a refugee.
Odinaka Mwelisa, ABS News.
The ABS Chapel of the State Chapter of Nigerian Union of Journalists, NUJ, has picked express of interest form for one of its members, Comrade Ekwe Ajide, who is contesting for the post of Secretary of the State NUJ in the coming election. Delegation from the chapel picked the form at NUJ Press Center, Oka. Correspondent Ogachukwu Okeke has the report.
Speaking at the center, Comrade Ajide said she was elated for the massive support given to her by the chapel. She said she wanted to contest for the post of secretary of the chapter to contribute in repositioning the NUJ in the state, noting that as the state treasurer of NUJ, she already has requisite experience and knowledge for more responsibilities. She expressed optimism that with the support of the chapel, she will be victorious in the forthcoming election.
My coming out for secretary is not just all about me, but all about us. Because Anambra NUJ needs to have the best.
The ABS NUJ Chapel chairman, Comrade Ngozi Obileri, said that they are supporting her because of her excellent performance as the treasurer of the union and expressed confidence that she will do more if elected.
She participated in the last election in 2015. As the treasurer, she won. This time around, we want to take it a step further. Maybe in the nearest future, we will still bring her out for the chairmanship position.
An editor of Authority newspaper Southeast, Mr. Odogwu Emeka Odogwu expressed surprise at great crowd from ABS to give Mrs. Ajide solidarity and commended the unity and understanding in the chapel.
I was coming secretly to pick my form because the money 50,000 is too high and 40,000 too high. But I had to go and borrow it to come and pick my form, thinking that nobody will know that I've come. But look at me here and I'm being exposed. I thank God for the ABS chapter. So I'm very happy to be associated with the ABS. And I pray that God Almighty's will happen in the 2018 election of the NUJ.
The spirits of the ABS family wishing Ekwe Ajide all the best. A total of 59 graduates of Animal Science, GAS, have been inducted into the Nigerian Institute of Animal Science. Among the inductees were graduates of 7 universities drawn from across the country. Staff reporter Odinaka Molise, who covered the events, now reports.
According to the members of the institute, the ceremony was to, among other things, create a certain standard and best practices as benchmark and mirror in the profession. Congratulating the inductees while declaring the event open, the Vice Chancellor of Nnamdi University, Oka, Professor Joseph Ahaneku, encouraged them to advance the course of animal science to gain a pride of place in the 21st century, as well as develop the will to exploit the opportunities in the practice of the career. He described the induction as a celebration of wise investment, of transfer of skill and expansion of knowledge, challenging the graduates to contribute their quota towards economic growth.
I want to congratulate you, the graduates, for lying and presenting yourselves to be our ambassador, for giving yourself to be part of Nnamdi University family, for allowing yourself to be trained by us, and for upholding the core values of this, our enterprise. I would just urge you.
In a welcome address, the Pro-Chancellor UNIZIC, Alhaji Aziz Bello, reminded them of the dynamic nature of the society, hence the need to involve technological innovations in championing a cause for self-development and call for continuous education, while soliciting for the Council towards provision of enabling environment for learning and research.
Those who know before become on, so who don't know. So I'm leaving one message for you. You have in the school now, you learn, and then they now say it's time for test. But when you get out into the world, you take a test and learn your lesson. Whereas in the school now, you learn your lesson and take a test.
Presenting a goodwill message, a stakeholder, Dr. Ndukwe, urged them not to join the queue of job seekers, rather exchange ideas and update their knowledge on agricultural practices. Inducting them, the registrar, Nigerian Institute of Animal Science, Professor Eustace Iyai, charged them to conform to the established standard and intensify drive for improvement in the profession.
And I'd like to seek indulgence, please, standing on the existing protocol, to please ask the heads of departments of the inducting universities to please step forward and present.
Other speakers, including the President, National Institute of Animal Science, Professor Israel Adu, and Head of Department of Animal Science, UNIZIC, Associate Professor Cordelia Ebenebe, advised the scientists to reinvigorate potentials in the profession. In an interview, the best graduating student, Mrs. Basi Effiong George, said the profession has inspired her for exploits. The event featured lecture by a resource person on ways to maximize opportunities. From UNIZIC, Oka, Odinaka Mwolisa, ABS News.
The federal government plans to impose new fines on foreigners who overstay their work or visitor visa as part of new measures geared at stemming the breach of the country's immigration laws by foreigners. The fines ranges from $200 to $4,000 and is dependent on the number of days a foreigner is deemed to have overstayed his visa in Nigeria. The sanction, however, would not apply to citizens of Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, as the Nigerian government under the ECOWAS Free Trade Treaty permits free movement of citizens of member states with valid passports without entry visas into the country. Immigration sources disclosed that a new document signed by the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Interior, indicated that a non-ECOWAS visitor who intended to stay in Nigeria for 56 days but ended up staying beyond 90 days would be sanctioned with a fine of $200 or the Naira equivalent. The federal government has inaugurated a 1.5 megawatts independent power project at the popular Sura Market in Lagos State. The private sector project was developed under the federal government's Energizing Economics initiative being implemented by the Rural Electrification Agency. Over the years, the issue of power generation has been one of Nigeria's biggest challenges since the advent of the Fourth Republic in 1999. Power has been in the front burner without an end to the problem. But in the midst of this darkness, the Buhari administration has shown more commitment to alleviating the sufferings of small business owners across the country with the inauguration of 1.5 megawatts independent power project at Sura Market in Lagos. The Sura Shopping Complex IPP was executed under the federal government's Energizing Economic initiative being implemented by the Rural Electrification Agency. According to the Rural Electrification Agency, the initiative has already launched 3 pilot projects to power 50,000 shops in Sabongeri Market in Kano State, Ariaria Market, Abia State, and Sura Shopping Complex in Lagos. With this development, more than 700 generating sets in the markets have been discarded, thus reducing harmful greenhouse emissions and noise pollution. And up next is entertainment news. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has reassured stakeholders and the entertainment industry of the federal government's commitment to supporting them to enhance national growth and development. Osinbajo gave the assurance at an event organized for entertainers and tagged an evening with the Vice President in Lagos. Hundreds of entertainers, including actors, comedians, and musicians, among others, were among creative artists present at the event. He noted that some entertainers were already in politics and urged others to participate in order to make a change and a difference. The Vice President said he had met frequently with entertainers with a view to developing policies around the industry for economic growth. He said that the government decided to create Technology and Creativity Advisory Council to see how the government could move the industry forward through proper policies. Osinbajo said that one of the policies raised was how to address the issue of piracy. According to him, if the government ignores the industry, it does that at its own risk. And he noted that the federal government had signed treaties with some other countries in a bid to grow the industry. He therefore urged the industry to support the government in the anti-corruption campaign, adding that the government was putting the necessary measures in place to create the enabling environment for the private sector to thrive. Osinbajo said that the government would use technology to solve the problem of piracy to make life easier for stakeholders in the industry. He added that the federal government was also looking at providing intervention funds for practitioners through the Bank of Industry in a transparent manner. The Israeli army has accused the Syrian government of introducing or instructing a Palestinian group to fire dozens of rockets at Israel from Gaza with Iran's support and vowed to respond where it chose. Israel spokesman Colonel Jonathan Conricus, while speaking to journalists, warned that Israel's response would not be limited geographically. Israeli fighter jets struck dozens of sites across the Gaza Strip early today as fighters fired about 30 rockets into Israel in the heaviest exchange of fire in several weeks. The fighting followed a bloody day of border protests in which Israeli forces shot and killed 5 Palestinians protesting along the perimeter fence dividing Hamas-ruled Gaza and Israel. The clash complicated the mission of Egyptian mediators who have intensified shuttle diplomacy to achieve calm and prevent a full-blown conflict between Hamas and Israel. The Israeli military said it had struck about 80 sites across Gaza by early Saturday morning, including a security headquarters building. Air raid sirens sounded throughout the night in southern Israel, with firing some 30 rockets. The military said it said about 10 rockets were intercepted by its Iron Dome rocket defense system. 2 landed prematurely in Gaza, and the rest fell in open areas. Israel's military chief, General Gadi Eisenkot, convened an emergency meeting of top security officials, the army added, without elaborating. Islamic Jihad, a smaller group, implicitly claimed responsibility for the rocket's fire. It issued a statement saying that it normally exercises restraint, but it can no longer stand idle before the continued killing of innocents and bloodshed by the Israeli occupation. In our sports story, Super Eagles coach Gernot Rohr has said he cannot promise that the team will win the Cameroon 2019 African Cup of Nations. Nigeria are on the cusp of sealing qualification for the tournament after their absence from the last 2 editions of the competition in 2015 and 2017. The Eagles currently sit atop Group E with 9 points after 4 matches and will be away at second-placed South Africa in Johannesburg on November 17. A victory for the Eagles in the match will seal their passage to the tournament, which holds from June 15 to July 13, 2019. Only the top 2 teams in the group will qualify for the first ever 24-nation tournament. However, Rohr, who spoke during the week, said the team were working hard for their next match, but said he could not promise that he will lead the team to their 5th continental title in Cameroon. The former Burkina Faso coach said he would continue to explore the possibility of playing Arsenal forward Alex Iwobi in the central midfield role. Iwobi was instrumental in Nigeria's victories in their qualifying double headers against Libya in Uyo and Sfax, as he created chances for striker Odio Igalo, as well as wingers Ahmed Musa and Samuel Kalu. It was all tears as the senior special assistant to the governor on audiovisual, Mr. Randy Enyoma Chima, was laid to rest in his hometown, Amota Otambwa, Isukwato, Abia State, after a funeral was presided by the assistant parish priest, Reverend Father Ima Azubike, at Our Lady of Fatima Catholic Church, Oguduasa, Isukwato. Ekwajide was at the burial ceremony and reports that it was well attended by government functionaries, family, friends, and well-wishers. Her reports.
Mr. Randy, aged 56, an only son, is survived by his wife, Ngozi, 2 children, 4 sisters. his aged mother, and a host of other relations. In a speech, Governor Willie Obiano, represented by his special assistant on agric matters, Chief Paul Nwosu, described the deceased as a generous and peace-loving man who believes in God as the ultimate provider, and urged the Chima family to take solace in the resurrection power of God. Randy's son, Kenechi Chima, and his elder sister, Barrister Ndidi Ohakwe, wondered why he would die in the peak of his career, lamenting that they will miss his soft-heartedness and critical analysis of issues.
As children of God, we're not to ask why, but my brother was such a soft-hearted man that I don't understand why God has chosen to do this now.
His mentor, Mr. Patrick Oke, urged his children to emulate their father by working hard so as to succeed in life.
Randy was a finisher. He is the sort of person who can take your own problem like his own, and he goes at it as if, there's nothing. I mean, I can't replace him.
Some of his friends and colleagues, including Chief Chido Obidiegu and Chief Jude Emecheta, said they will miss his friendship and kindness. Earlier in a homily titled Time, the parish priest, Our Lady of Fatima, Reverend Father Anthony Jiwumba, urged Christians to be ready at all times, as one does not know the time of his departure from the world.
And to be on alert, because we don't know the time and the hour it will be.
Copies of Randy's last work, the Anambra Compendium, were presented to his mother and wife as a lasting legacy. Ekwi Ajide, ABS News.
May Randy Chima's soul rest in peace. Amen. Remember that you can follow news and programs on ABS 88.5 FM from any part of the world by logging onto our website www.absradiotv.com and at www.facebook.com/ABS Radio Television, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ABS Radio TV. And just before we go, a recap of the main points. State government has reassured industrialists and entrepreneurs of conducive business environment. Governor Obiano was speaking at the unveiling of IVM Granite 2019 edition at Nnewi. Residents of the states have been cautioned against violating sanitation laws. Federal government is to impose new sanctions on foreigners who overstay visas. And on the foreign scene, Israel has accused Syria and Iran of encouraging Gaza rocket attacks. And that's it tonight on the news. I am Maureen Stone Enugu. Thanks for watching. Good night.